Hello and welcome to Philosophy Roulette, where I read and review philosophy papers live on air for the viewing audience and for people later on YouTube. This is Twitch TV. So, what we do here is we go to Phil Papers and we see what is new in the wide world of publishing academic philosophy. It's amazing. So, let's go see what the new journal articles have today. Go see if we can find something of not a crazy mountain of length. The evolution of episodic like memory, the importance of biological and ecological constraints, Bos von Werkum, Biology and Philosophy. Let's go check out Biology and Philosophy. Inquiry, another good journal. Mind, another good journal. Synthes, another good journal. Let's go look at all this stuff. See what's new. See if I've read everything already. Huh. So this is like 12 pages. I wonder, let's see. Yeah, there's only two things. Usually in biology and philosophy, there's not a whole lot else. All right, so then we've got, there's a review of a book. But I know Eva Jablonka, very good philosopher. So I don't know Simona Ginsberg, though. So, might be interesting to read the book. I don't know. Probably not gonna read the review though. And then we got function and representational content through Tinberger's levels of analysis, Semantics and stuff. Let's go give it a click just real fast, see if it's available. Usually these things are, when the sciencey ones are here, they're very hard to read because I end up reading lots of symbols and stuff out, and it's not so good. All right, not available. So that makes my life not any easier, but it just means I can't read this one. Okay. So much for biology and philosophy. Although that is an excellent journal, and everyone should, if you're interested in philosophy of biology and philosophy of science, it's good stuff. I'm particularly interested in philosophy of certain topics in philosophy of biology too. Alright, so we've got this one. An externalist perspective on meaning change and conceptual stability. That could be cool. Then we got semantic, burden shifting, and temporal externalism. There was a whole thing on temporal externalism here or something. Temporal externalism, conceptual continuity, meaning and use. Conceptual engineering. So it's like concept change. Journal topic. On the individuation of words. Actually thinking about that. Let's take a look. Just see if this is available. JTM Miller. Not available. Why does it say it's here when it wasn't? That's Well, okay. I mean, this is the Phil Papers webpage, but it wasn't when I clicked on it. Alright, so this is definitely a possibility here. We got this individuation of words. What else was in inquiry? Let's see. We got Bennett on building. 3 aspects. Karen Bennett's theory of building relations in a book making things up. Building grounds, notes on current. Oh, so there's a review. A review journal thing on building. So that's interesting. Cool. Author makes critics. That's usually just some sort of little prefaces. Yeah, these are all prefaces to Heidegger's Nietzsche. Well, that's always fun too. Let's go see this. Heidegger maintained that Nietzsche was a metaphysical thinker. What did he mean by that? Let's go see if there's available just for variety. I need some this will be continental philosophy. Let's see if we got it. Heidegger's Nietzsche from... Okay. So then we've got this one too. Okay. So if anyone out there has a preference, we've got Heidegger's Nietzsche. We've got on the individuation of words, and we can go look at what's in mind. See if this has some new things. Oh no, there's nothing here. Oh wait, 1 to 32. Oh, these are all reviews. And I think I started reading these down here. The Gatecrasher Paradox. I remember reading something on that, or at least reading that title. So, self-locating belief and updating on learning to shape a new world. Yeah, these are all reviews. Let's go back up, see if there's anything under forthcoming. Maybe that'll be more luck for that. Nope, no page numbers. Okay. And Synthese. What is deflationism about truth? See if this is here. I mean, it's like a balloon truth. I mean, obviously, you poke a hole in it, and then it gets deflated. Oh, okay, and it is a open access. So let's see what the PDF looks like then. Not going to open? Let's just hit OK. Alright, let's see this real quick. I think I downloaded it. 1 of 15. Did I read this? I couldn't have read this. Could I have? I could have. I don't remember nothing. Alright, this is kind of long though. So, it's 15 pages and like tightly spaced. So that's something though. So let's see. Let's go back. Getting Stabbed launched an emote fireworks in the channel. Thank you, Getting Stabbed. You subscribed. Oh my god, thank you. I don't know if I have anything set up to actually make that work. I would love for it to work. I just don't know if it actually did. Thank you, Getting Stabbed. I appreciate the sub. Cool. Yes. Yeah, you haven't been on Twitch Mug, it's all good. Yeah, well, I haven't been on Twitch Mug. Lately, it's just been, life has been busy and stressful. And that's how things get sometimes. And so, what are you going to do? But, yeah, do you have a preference? Do you like metaphysics? Do you like continental philosophy? Alright, let's see what else we've got. We've got Deflationism about truth. Let's see what else is available. Yeah, I've been, just lurking people's streams, not, and I've read this one, Experiencing Moral Properties, so that means I've already seen this stuff. So this will be the options. What is deflationism about truth? On the individuation of words, and Heidegger's Nietzsche. So, all of it, yeah. Well, I will tell you exactly how I do things then. This one is 12, this one is 13, this one is 15 pages. I don't know if you can see it, but that's what the numbers say in the upper left-hand corner. And so I do the one that is 12 pages. So, yep. On the individuation of words. I'm actually a little bit interested in this topic too, so it doesn't hurt. There's the link. You can get the paper, even though for some reason it's not listed here. If you click on the scholar button, if you want to like pick up the paper. I mean, I don't blame you if you don't want to. Some of these things tend to be a little dry, but hey, that's why I read them out loud, talk about them, and this is my lot. Where is my? Did it not download? Where is this? Whatever. This it? Yes, okay. On the individuation of words. Okay, cool. One more thing. There we go. Cool. So, here we go. No abstract for me. On the individuation of words. The idea that two words can be instances of the same word is a central intuition in our concept of language. This fact underlies many of the claims that we make about how we communicate, how we understand each other. Given this, irrespective of what we think words are, it is common to think that any putative ontology of words must be able to explain this feature of language. That is, we need to provide criteria of identity for word types which allow us to individuate words such that it can be the case that two particular word instances are instances of the same word type on the assumption that there are such types. One solution recently further developed by Imrach, or Ermac, I apologize for how I say everyone's names, holds that words are individuated by their history. In this paper, I argue that this view either fails to account for our intuitions about word identity or is too vague to be a plausible answer to the problem of word individuation. Alright, so basically what's going on here, to just on the get-go, is how do you know what anything is? Like, anything. Like, this is a pencil. And every time I say pencil, you know what I'm talking about, because all the instances of pencil, and me saying all the instances of pencil, all sort of have to refer back to one, like, this sort of concept, what they're saying. So this word type thing here. So how do we do that when every single pencil is different from every other pencil? That pencil is different from... Do I have another pencil? This pencil. This is a different pencil. But they're both pencil. So how do we know that? That's crazy. Because they're completely different things. One's over here and one's over there. But they're both pencil. So, yeah. And you can do this for anything in the entire universe. And the question really here is, if you're going to do it for pencils and objects, don't you also have to do it for words? And what extra problems does that bring up? Because you're using words to talk about words. So you've got the reflexive problem too. So that's what's going on in this paper so far. And I would like to say now I know a little bit about this topic. So it's not like sometimes I go into these things blind, but this one I know a little bit about. Alright, 1. Perhaps the most defended view of the metaphysics of words are those views that posit genuinely existing word types. Yeah, and everyone out there, especially getting stabbed, please feel free to ask questions. Such views can be further split into the Platonists that take word types to be external abstract entities and views that take word types to be abstract artifacts. Despite various differences between these versions of type realist views of words, most predominantly concerning whether words are created or eternal entities, they agree that what is it for two particular word instances or tokens to be the same word is for them both to be instances of the same type. Now let me point out tokens and type. This is a very common thing in contemporary philosophy. You've got instances or tokens of a general type. So this is a token of the type pencil. So any instance or thing, that's what's going on with the tokens. So you're going to see that a bunch if you do metaphysics. This naturally leads... and emotes. This is a... so you can consider emotes of they're tokens of the type of the emotion sort of represented. So they're sort of an interesting case. So emotes are actually a fun sort of token of the type of emotional response. This naturally leads to the questions about the individuation of word types and word instances. Though connected, these two issues need to be carefully separated. So word types and word instances. All right, how do you individuate them? Yeah. The latter is the question of what connects word instances such that two instances are instances of the same word type. The former concerns how we differentiate the types themselves. The focus in this paper is on solutions to the problem of individuating word types, and thus, unless specified in the rest of this paper, the term word will refer to types, not instances. Okay, so we're not even talking about instances. It's how do we individuate concepts almost at this point. It is well recognized that trying to individuate words through their phonetic, orthographic, or semantic properties is flawed. Well, this is an interesting claim. I'm sure there's tons of people that try to do this, and they do it a lot. So claiming that it's flawed is a bit of a bias, but I mean, everyone's trying. So of course, no one solved it, but yeah. On so-called form or shape theoretic conceptions of words, which holds that two words are instances of the same word if they share the same relevant physical shape or form, a quick reflection on the multitude of different pronunciations, spellings, and examples of different handwriting and fonts make it very hard to see what in terms of shape or form is truly had in common between intuitively genuine cases of multiple instances of the same word. Two people can clearly say the same word despite pronouncing the word differently. Color and color are similarly the same word despite the difference between US and British spelling. Homophones are distinct words even though they are pronounced the same, and bank are distinct despite being spelt and pronounced the same way. I mean, I guess they take it that this one here is the financial institution and this one here is the side of a river. But Yeah. The fact that I have to make that clear is just sort of funny to me. Further to this, it seems intuitively to be the case that words undergo phonetic and orthographic change. The great vowel shift did not create a new language. I have no idea what that is. Maybe everyone started talking differently at a certain point. Even it were the case that the shift led to speakers struggling to understand some others, this does not mean that there was a change in the language, nor a change in the identity of the words that underwent a change in their pronunciation. Thus, we can reject views that individuate words through their phonetic or orthographic properties. Yeah, it's very hard to, if you're going to say, look, this is what a word is, and it's sort of tied to a specific time and place, or sound, or shape, that stuff is all sort of, it's subject to change. It's an accident of history. It's a convention. And so this goes back to the conventional understanding of language. What about our language is not conventional? Because so much of it, you can be talking in Spanish, English, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can say you basically conveying meaning doesn't depend on what language you're doing it in. There's going to be details that matter, but overall, it doesn't really matter what language you're talking in, because you're going to be able to say what you need to say. And so tying it to any of these sort of conventional things is very hard. So you have to find something that's not conventional behind this if you're going to try to tie any meaning to words or distinguish different concepts, as this paper is going to try to do. Okay. A semantic account. Yeah, so the meaning account fares a little better. Words undergo semantic change just as they undergo phonetic and orthographic change. On some occasions, this even involves a word coming to mean something entirely distinct from its original meaning. Take the recently well-discussed on the internet example of many people using the word literally as a near synonym of figuratively. This form of use is prevalent across many places online and has got a lot of people very angry. Really? Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about, because even they know what they just said was wrong. This, down here in this, footnote, they're saying this is a modern phenomenon. I'm like, no, it's not. This has been happening forever. And all of these people, Charlotte Bronte, James Joyce, Charles Dickens, F. Scott Fitzgerald, also were doing this. Semantic shifts happen over actually long periods of time. Very rarely is it just once and just goes. But it does happen, but usually it doesn't. There's not usually a hard break. The way semantics changes, it leaks over time, and it starts to get more and more usage. But I mean, that's sort of just function of history and language. Okay, does this mean that the word has changed, or are people using a homophone or homograph in such cases? It seems far more reasonable to think that, if anything, the meaning of the word has changed and that the word itself remains the same. Semantics, therefore, is also not a good guide to the identity of words. Alright, so this, let's see, what is this for? I don't know if, the meaning of the words changed, but the word itself remains the same. I don't even know what the word concept... But see, look, here's one of those issues. The author said before that the word itself, so that would be the word concept or the word type. But then the meaning of the word, so if the type of word has changed, you're associating with a meaning. But then what is the word itself? Then this is the word type as the author said it was above. Then what is the word type supposed to do? If the, is it only tied to if it's not changing along with the meaning, then is it tied to the orthographics or the sound, the phonetics? I'm a little confused right here, because how are we supposed to change the meaning of the word right here and the word itself, if the word itself, as the author said, was the word type? If the word type itself does not change somewhat with the meaning, then what's going on, what's remaining the same, and what's changing then? Because wouldn't the word type also change along with the word meaning somewhat? So, I mean, I'm not 100% on board with what's going on right here. Alright. But, I mean, the larger point that the author is making, yes, meanings shift, and just because the meaning shifts, you can't say everything is new now. And so, on the overall, the whole point, the author still kind of is like, I'm still with the author here, but I think there was a little slippage, like right in this spot. Okay. In light of these and other problems, theorists have explored versions of an account that places the historical properties or the origins of words as central to their individuation. Thus, origin, words 1 and words W1 and W2 are identical if and only if W1 and W2 have the same originating event, where the originating event is the first performance of the word. Yes, this is the causal history theory of word stuff. Like Saul Kripke is big on this. What's it called? Is this Millionism? Yeah, this is called Millionism. It goes back to John Stuart Mill for whatever reason, I forget. But this is you have a causal history that tracks the word back, and if the word tracks back to the same spot, then it's the same word. So like if I call this pencil, this pencil has all the pencils get tracked back to the same time this was originally called the first person ever called this a pencil. And since it all has this sort of like comes down to the same little first historical point of when it was dubbed pencil, then all of that stuff in the downflow of history therefore are the same word, because they go back to the same original event. Either it's sometimes called a baptism or a dubbing. So yeah, this is a causal history a lot of times. Origin, though, is still too crude a proposal. There are many cases in which words share an originating event, but are not intuitively the same words. Many distinct words in English, for example, derive from the same Latin root. Furthermore, it rules out unperformed words, or at least assumes that words only come into existence when performed. Well, I mean, depends how general you're calling an event. Is it an event of performance? Maybe not. Maybe it's just when I think of it. We might try to respond by allowing that a mental performance of a word is sufficient for origin, but either way, origin does not seem satisfactory due to its demand that there is, for each word, exactly one performance that is the first performance of that word. Got a hair in my mouth. That's fair. It may be sort of amorphous when a word finally got its meaning. Ermak has used these problems to motivate a broader account where words are individuated via their history. This account places etymology at the center of our inquiries into word identity. Etymology, then, is not merely an empirical investigation concerning the history of words as linguistic units, but also a proper investigation of the word identity, where what we are interested in tracking are the changes in their orthographic and phonological forms and meanings and or functions. Ermak thus proposes history. Words W1 and W2 are identical if and only if they have the same history. Yeah. So, and yeah, please ask questions if you have any. But yeah, we're getting back to the causal history here, as I was saying. So, we are not told what facts are included in history, but we can assume that given Ermak thinks that he holds. Let me read this again. But we can assume that given Ermak thinks that his view avoids the problems associated with origin, that they include both origin and other performance facts, potentially including the mental performance of the word, if such events count as performances. Thus, history does not require, as origin did, that there is exactly one event that is the first performance of a word. The word could have two distinct originating events, just so long as both events are part of the history of that word. Yeah, so... But here's a problem, then you might have multiple realizations of it, and then how do you identify the word just the same? But they'll get to this sort of thing again. So, but I mean, you could have this is what I'm saying, you could have a few different things that all go along, and, that's when the word sort of arose out of those events, not just one event, but a few. That's fair. History seems to give us the right answers for many of our intuitions about language. The difference between color and color is insignificant as they share the same history. Homophones, homographs, and synonyms are distinct words because their histories are different, and in virtue of significant differences in their histories, specifically the particular way and the time they were borrowed from the donor language, doublets are successfully rendered different yet cognate words despite sharing a common root. It is accepted that the view is not entirely without problems. Words overlap and even share etymologies, both within a language and across languages. That is, how and when do overlapping words become distinct under this account? How many new uses and how distinct from other uses before a new word exists? This is presented as a purely epistemological problem. In what remains, I will argue that the problem goes deeper and that there is no interpretation of the same history that provides us with a plausible account of word individuation. I think I agree with this author. I mean, this is, to tell you the truth, I think this is, I've seen objections along these lines. I'm not, of course, not exactly in this way, but I think this is, I'm like kind of on board with this author right here. The causal history is like, how do you know which causal history is the right causal history? And so once you start asking, like, well, which? Well, it's the causal history of the word, but what is the causal history of the word without already knowing the word? Then you'd have to know the causal history, and you get yourself into this sort of chicken or the egg problem. Okay, so that's where I think we're going here. Okay, continuing. Let us canvass some possibilities, beginning with the strongest reading of same, where same means identical such that we get. History star. Word W1 and W2 are identical if and only if they have an identical history. Well, that can't work. I mean, this pencil is this one here, and that pencil is that one there, but then we've got this pencil and that pencil, and the history is different. However, read this way, history star means that words are, in fact, almost never identical. The reason for this is that history is an ever-growing set of etymological facts. The history of the words that I am producing instances of right now is different from those instanced by Jane Austen and Charles Dickens. This is, in part, because the history of my words includes the influential use of words by famous authors that may have adjusted their meaning, made them more popular, changed their spellings, or had any number of effects that contribute to that word's history. The words that I am producing instances of have a history that includes their use by Austen, whilst Austen's do not. Thus, it cannot be that Austen and I ever instanced the same word. This, of course, works more for familiar cases too. Color without the U and color with the U do not actually share an identical history, as the history of color includes various uses in America, whilst color is in Britain, as well as various other differences. It is the problem with ever identifying anything too fine-grained. You start to lose any thread between anything. So that's why I was joking about why I was like, pencil here and pencil there, they're not the same pencil. But it's the same thing with the words. Word here is being used now, but then if I use the word again, it'll be used with after the other word, and so the history has already changed, if ever so slightly. This is a serious enough issue that history star cannot be a plausible account of word individuation. If words cannot in principle be shared by speakers of the same language at two distinct times under a given theory, then I propose that is sufficient reason to reject the theory of word individuation. An alternative might be to say that it is enough that H1, the set of historical facts that individuates W1, is a subset of H2, the set of history facts that individuates W2. We might say then that when I write W1 and Austen has written W2, then W1 equals W2 if and only if all the facts that are members of H2 are members of H1. Thus Austen and I could write the same words despite H1 and H2 not being identical. Thus we get H double star. Words W1 and W2 are identical if and only if they have the same history, or if the history of W1 is a subset of W2. And I know this won't work already, and they say so right here. This, though, will not work. One phenomenon we want to be able to explain is how borrowed words are new words in the language in which they are introduced, distinct from but the different but cognate word with which they share a root. But history's double star does not allow for this. For example, aardvark is a borrowed word in English from Afrikaans. In Afrikaans, aardvark is now an obsolete term, having been replaced by urdvark. Oh, I had no idea. That's so fun. Aardvark is now urdvark. And I'm probably saying that wrong because it's in not English. It is my English bastardization of Afrikaans. But that is so fun. I like urdvark. I'm going to start saying urdvark now. That sounds cooler. Yeah, I mean, you see, here's the problem: is words 1 and words 2 are identical if and only if they share the same history, but like things diverge. I mean, you can see that immediately, and then like, are they different words? But like, when you choose to pick what subset of stuff you're looking at, you might somehow be able to get one word is multiply subsetted, and then they'd have different things like you could, if you slice things up just right, you might get different words being identical that you wouldn't want to be identical. Anywho, continuing. This shared root means that aardvark and urdvark have a significantly shared history. The English word has a history that includes all of the history of the now obsolete Afrikaans word as a subset. That is, the full etymology of aardvark in English will include all the etymological facts of aardvark and Afrikaans, at least up until the moment of that the word was borrowed. Thus, at that moment at least, the two words would satisfy history double star, but intuitively they are still distinct words. Given this, we might say that the histories only have to be sufficiently similar. History triple star. Words W1 and W2 are identical if and only if they have the same or sufficiently similar history. And now you can see the slippage. What is going to count as sufficient? Because if you have the same, it's one thing, because it has to be, pretty darn close to be the same. Sufficiently, now you're going to get some value judgments in there. And anyone who's like interested in just like pointing out what is when philosophy, or to tell you the truth, this may just be a straw man argument, but you can start to see immediately when you've gone from identical to not quite, and something that might even have a value judgment associated with it, that's when you know things are just changing significantly in the theory. Yeah. However, this is so vague as to be unhelpful. Talking about the aardvark example from taking the aardvark example from above, aardvark in English and urdvark, the current term in Afrikaans, have a significant shared history. Are they the same word? For myself, intuitively they are not, but history triple star leaves open the possibility that they are. At the same time, color and color intuitively are the same, but history triple star leaves open the possibility that they are not. Yeah, so then you're trying to slice up what exactly counts as sufficient. Is the U enough to change the difference, or just even though they're very similar words in use currently, or are these the same words even though this word does no longer exist in the Afrikaans? Like it's a dead word. Okay. The problem is that it is not clear at all how much similarity is required to determine questions about word identity. At worst, in the above case, identity in history may not be sufficient for word identity. An English instance of aardvark and an Afrikaans instance of urdvark do not count as instances of the same word, despite sharing their history. Let me see something. Am I looking? And this one's not even spelled the same way. This one's got a W here, and this one has a V here. So that's very confusing. How could they possibly be the same? It should be noted that such vagueness in the notion of sufficient similarity is not unique to history, but is common to many of the proposals for word individuation. Versions of the same problem have been argued as being sufficient to reject the attempt to individuate words through their shape or form, through meaning, and through intentions of speakers. If we accept, as most have, such an issue to be enough to lead us to reject those other proposals, then it would seem that it should be enough to reject history too. Yeah, I mean, once you start trying to figure out what sufficient closeness is, you're not doing anything. This is not going to be a precise term. And then basically what people want out of the theory can't give them. I mean, it might be true that it's sufficiently close, but you're not going to get people very happy with your theory because it's not precise. Okay, in what remains, I will respond to some immediate objections to my argument. It might be responded that I have confused word types with word instances. That is, that I have used history applied to word instances to make a point about a theory aimed at providing a criteria of identity for word types. However, whilst I have used word instances in making my point, in each case the question has been about whether history can provide individuating conditions for types. History is taken to provide a solution to that question as, by individuating word types, we aim to be able to individuate the instances. I asked whether W1, an instance of which was produced by Austin, is the same as word 2, W2, an instance of which was produced by me here in 2018. And see, now it's 2021, and this was written in 2018. Yay, philosophy publishing! On any reasonable specification of how much history W1 and W2 must share to be identical, either the theory produces the wrong answer, for example, Austin and I did not instance the same word, or becomes vague as the previously outlined positions. Thus, though W1 and W2 are instances, the conclusion is about whether or not proposed criteria of an identity type, big W, explains how little w1 and little w2 are instances of the same word. One way that my objection could be avoided is by adopting a version of Platonism where, given that words are eternal, unchanging entities, the history of a word already includes facts about uses of that word in the future from our current perspective. This would avoid the problem as it would allow us to say that the word that Austin and I instance do have the same history, as the history of the word instanced by Austin and me includes all the facts relating to my use of the word and all other instancings of the word. Alright, so this is basically saying you're referencing the entire causal history of the universe and the thread that that entire word makes through the entire universe. And so you're both referencing the same thing, because although there's changes, there's a thread that goes through the entire universe that represents the, that single word. Okay. However, this immediately has some very strange consequences for how we think of words, in that it would make it the case that the history of a word is predetermined or even necessary. Well, of course, it's eternal and unchanging at that point. That is, if history already includes facts about all the uses of a word in the future, then we would have to accept that those future uses could not be different, else the word would actually be a different word. This is highly counterintuitive. No, it's not. It's just the theory. If you're willing to say this sort of thing, you already buy this. So, if you don't like this sort of Platonic thing, you're going to find it counterintuitive. But I don't know if this is actually an argument. If the word was different, then it would be a different word. But that's fine. Okay. We think that various aspects about language and words are contingent, including facts about whether, say, some word is adopted by some community of speakers or comes to be spelt or pronounced in a different way. It should not be the case that how we individuate words means that it is necessary that shoe came later to be spelt show, or that a word will shift its meaning. No, I don't like this argument here, and let me explain why. Just because it's contingent, what sort of contingency actually is this? This is the contingency from our point of view. We have no real grasp of the future, or the past, and so we think things are contingent. If the world is in some sense determined and fixed, all this is fine. We don't know it, and so the contingency here is just epistemological. It's a fact that we don't know the truth, but that doesn't mean it's not the truth. It just means that we don't know. It is contingent from our perspective. And so if you're a Platonist and you think everything, or not a Platonist, but if you're a Platonist in the way the author's saying, and you think the world is sort of like fixed, then this is perfectly okay. If something happened, like it's adopted by a community of speakers, spelled differently, pronounced differently, well, that is just how that word is. We found out about it, but that was what really the word was all along. We just thought we just thought wrongly about it. So, I'm not saying this ain't a strange view, this Platonistic, sort of universal, thread throughout time view. I'm just saying that someone who believes that doesn't find it counterintuitive. It's a completely different view than a lot of the author and most people have, but that doesn't make it actually that, just saying that, pointing out that you find it counterintuitive is not, I don't think that's a good argument right here. Could do better. And I agree with the author. I just want to be clear. I just don't like this argument. Furthermore, this response would make the practical job of individuating words almost impossible. We simply would not know whether the full history of two instances of words used now are the same word as history includes relevant facts about future uses. Perhaps for the Platonist, this is not too problematic. They, after all, already have to handle objections about how it is possible for us in any sense come to know or grasp eternal and changing abstract entities. However, this at least shows that the view is more counterintuitive than it might initially seem. Yeah, I'm just saying this is the epistemological problem again. Like, however, if they're willing to bite that bullet, then, let them have it. But I mean, it's a big bullet to bite. Furthermore, even if those problems can be avoided, this route is not available to at least some realists about word types, such as Ermak, who argues that words, though being abstract, still come into existence. Okay, yeah, if you're going to say it didn't exist before, then you got problems. If words genuinely come into existence, then it seems as though it would not be the case that the word would have all of its historical facts at the moment of creation. If a major benefit of history is that we can maintain our intuitive way of speaking, that a word's history changes and grows over time, then that benefit would be lost if we adopt this response to the arguments above. One further response might be that I have been overly metaphysical in my reasoning here. Perhaps. Looking for precise boundaries for word identities will either result in determinate answers to complicated cases where major revisions are required in our linguistic practices concerning word identity, or insofar as it attempts to respect and even justify such practices, it will eventually fail. It must be noted that for the vast majority of cases, the problem does not even arise. The concern here is about those cases where the similarities and differences in word histories are not even nearly decisive. Okay. However, in the first examples I've used here, I've shown that these concerns arise for all sorts of ordinary words. Aardvark is not an unusual case, and it is not a particularly uncommon word. It seems that these problems do not arise in the vast majority of cases, only because we are not looking. Yeah, I'm with the author here. If you think you can't find problems in words, I just don't think you're looking hard enough. There's a fantastic book by C.S. Lewis called Studies in Words. Yeah, I think it was C.S. Lewis. Not C.I. Lewis, maybe C.S. Lewis. It's called Studies in Words, and it goes over very carefully the history of some of these words we use, very common words. Like if you want to go look at the word sad, where did the word sad come from? Sad came from the word sated, as in being full. And they think what happened was the idea of being sad and unhappy was related to being when you stuff yourself so full and you just feel uncomfortable and can't move. And so you've got this feeling of uncomfortability and inability to move when you've overeaten. And that is where the word sad came from. And it's these common words have these, not what you think history sometimes, but it kind of makes sense. When you overeat and you can't move, well, that is kind of like being sad. And that is where the word sad, as we kind of know it, came from. So, I mean, you think if you try and figure out all this stuff and know the vast majority of cases, the problems do not even arise. I don't know. Boundaries are real sort of weird at times. Weird things happen. So yeah, I'm with the author on this. Analogously to those who have not read all the metaphysical literature, well, that is everybody on the face of the earth, there's a lot of metaphysical literature, the puzzles about the material composition only arise in the most strange and extreme examples, but that should not persuade us that there is no question here. We might have other reasons for thinking that the questions are non-substantive, but that we do not normally care about. Whether a table is really just particles arranged table-wise is by itself no reason to think that no good answer is forthcoming. Similarly, just because I do not in ordinary conversation stop the speaker to ask whether they are uttering an instance of W1 or W2 because the context tells which it is, does not free us from the metaphysical puzzle, irrespective of whether we want to be revisionist about linguistic practices or not. Just because you know the answer doesn't mean there wasn't a problem. We're smart things, and in this case, the question we're asking is, how do we give a good answer to individuating things? We're not saying can we do it. We know we can individuate words. The question is how or why or what is going on there. That's the interesting question, because we know we can do it. And the fact that we can do it is the interesting part, because once you start asking questions about that, then you realize you have no idea how we individuate words. It's a little harder than it looks, but that's why it's a philosophical question. It may that determinate answers on this topic, as with many in metaphysics, would seem to require revisions to our linguistic practice, but only if we think that we should, let alone could, abide by correct metaphysical principles in all parts of our lives. Compositional nihilists do not think that people should stop talking as if composite objects exist. A revisionist metaphysics of words does not mean that we think that people should stop talking whatever way is best for them in a particular context. In both cases, if truly revisionary, then some account might be needed to explain why other less revisionary accounts should not be favored. However, none of this is an argument against looking for precise boundaries, only to be aware of the consequences for any proposed precise boundaries on both philosophical and common sense contexts. Yeah, I mean, just because it's hard doesn't mean we shouldn't look. Excuse me, I haven't talked enough lately. The lack of a good account of criterion of individuation for words is well recognized. This has led Hawthorne and Lepore to the position of sloppy realism. Sloppy realism. Sounds bad. Wherein we accept that there must be some criterion of individuation for words, but that we cannot, at least currently, specify them. Despite the arguments in this paper, I am more hopeful than that. Like Ermac, I do think that there are objective facts about the individuation of words, even if such facts will involve facts about humans, and I think that we can at least improve our account of what such facts are. But even granting this, history, as currently stated, is either too vague or too restrictive, and thus not a significant improvement on previous theories of word individuation. Okay, cool. Not bad at all, really. So, I think I said most of the things I want to say here, actually. This is the million version of names in word history. Miller is a million. Where was this published again? Was this inquiry paper? No, that was this one. This one here. Yeah, this was an inquiry. Okay, nice paper. Yeah. So this is just against the history version of the word. Yeah. I don't have much to say. I might do another paper. This one went fast, so I do like it going fast. All right. So if anyone has any questions, I'll put down a stream marker for the end of the paper. Everyone, thanks, and I'll be right back with another paper.